Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of books and reading and notebooks and writing to make life better and to feel better too. You'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how it can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebook invitations around particular themes, and you'll meet authors and special guests who'll help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host, and I'm going to kick this episode off with a fill in the blank sentence for you. So I'm going to offer you this prompt, and I want you to fill in the blank with the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready? Okay. I'm the kind of reader who fill in the blank. And by fill in the blank, I literally want you to fill in the blank right now. Say it out loud if you can, whisper it if you must, think it inside your head if there are people around you. I'm the kind of reader who reads quickly, loves to read more than one book at the same time, abandons books freely, loves to read ebooks over physical books, will never, ever, ever dog ear a bookmark on my book, right? Whatever it is, what kind of reader are you? I'm the kind of reader who ... If I were to answer that, I would have a lot of things to say, and you would probably know a lot of them because you've spent over 100 episodes with me on this Get Literate podcast. But the one that comes to mind recently, and the one that was challenged recently, was this. I'm the kind of reader who reads quickly. Now, I truly am a fast reader. It is just my nature to read quickly. I am quite lucky that reading has always come easy to me. And because I read so much, I feel like I'm able to read those words so quickly and get through books without compromising their meaning or my enjoyment. I am the kind of reader who reads quickly. I am the kind of reader who goes from one book right to the next. Yes, there is a little bit of book tracking that happens in between, and typically there is some sort of review posted or shared or put on Book Goodreads, but I move quickly through the books that I read. I'm the kind of reader who reads quickly until I wasn't. So this intrinsic nature of my reading, of reading quickly, was challenged recently because I read a book that I could not read quickly. I could read it quickly physically, right? But emotionally, I could not read this book quickly. And I found that this book took me the longest to get through. It took me the longest to put up and put back down and get back up and put back down. And that book that I'm talking about, you may already know if you follow me on social media, but that book is called Mothers and Sons by Adam Haslett. Now, I don't know if you've read this book or not. It is a beautifully written book. This book is so emotional, so deep, so lyrical, and I would say so literary that it begs to be read slowly. And that is not how I typically operate. But this book invites you into the pages in a way that few books do, at least from my reader interpretation. It was an almost haunting book for me. It captured the shifting, tumultuous relationship between a mother and her grown son with some flashbacks. The writing was brilliant. It was beautiful. I could literally feel the emotion of every character on every page so much that I had to put the book down periodically. So there's a couple of kinds of ways that my reading slowed down. I was figuring out themes of identity, of family, of sense of self, authenticity, freedom, love, loss. Oh my goodness. this book was a roller coaster of emotions. And I found that I could not read it in the same way. I could not read quickly. I had to read it slowly. And in that process of reading slowly, I realized that perhaps I've been missing something along the way. Yes, it has felt so good to just read right through my stories as quickly as I can so that I can embrace them and get to the end. But this slowing down of my reading in this book, while uncomfortable at first, made me realize how much more I got out of it when I did slow down. And so that's what I want to talk about today, slow reading. Now, you might think of slow reading in a couple of different ways. I know I am at this particular moment in time. There's the first way where we are literally reading the book slower, where our actual word by word fluency is is that a word? Slown down? Is slowed down. So instead of reading quickly and going from page to page, we are just reading at a much slower pace, probably trying to visualize it and take notice of all of that beautiful language. So the actual pace of our reading could slow down. But I found that I was slowing my reading down in another kind of way. And that's where I was reading the book, yes, a little bit slowly, word by word by word, but I was reading more slowly because I could only read the book in small chunks. I could read a couple of chapters, but then I'd have to put it down and I'd have to sit with it because there was so much in this book. I could not read it straight through. I could not read for large chunks at a time because I was feeling so much that I had to let it go and then return to it. So those are two different kinds of slow reading. One where our pace slows down, and two where our pacing of how quickly we get through the whole book because we need to take a break from it is another kind of slow reading. But I think there might even be a third way. And that's something that I am calling, with the help of a friend that you're going to meet on the podcast soon, embodied reading, where the reading literally takes over your body, not in some weird, spooky, spirit invading kind of way, but that you are just so present in the book that time just stops. You are in it. You are feeling what the character feels. You are experiencing the book as it is unfolding, and that by nature slows down the whole experience. So, this idea of slow reading is something that I typically didn't do before. Yes, I got involved and invested in my reading, but I was just so blown away by how much more I got out of the experience because I slowed down, right? And I think that's a life lesson too, right? Slower life, more present, embodied life, slower reading, perhaps more present and embodied reading. So, if we think about slow reading, whatever way that appeals to you, right? Whether it's one of those three things I just mentioned, it's basically just reading slowly and with intention. It's reading without distraction. It's reading to really let the words convey their power and linger in your mind. It's not about how long you read or how much you read, but how deeply, how emotionally you're connecting to that reading. Now, I don't know if you know this book by Ella Bertroud, but it's called The Art of Mindful Reading. And it's this beautiful little book that can literally fit in the palm of your hand about reading with a mindful stance. And I think we could probably replace slow reading with mindful reading. And Ella says the way that you read can be just as important as what you read. And if we make our reading matter more by remembering what we have read, right, being mindful of that book in new ways, it will make every book you read count. So it's not about the number of books we read, as we've talked about that on the podcast, but it's about the books that have impacted us. And this idea of slow reading is something that can help us take more away from the books that we do read. So, why is slow reading worth our time? Why is slow reading worth mindfully, consciously slowing the pacing of the page? Well, first, we have the brain research, right? We know that just 6 minutes of reading does all sorts of wonderful, beautiful things to our physical body, our cognitive body, and our emotional body. Right. But if we really lean into those 6 minutes and if we stretch it to 30, then we can actually have an impact on our parasympathetic nervous system. Slowing down, sinking into the reading experience boosts all of those benefits on how our systems work. Now, second, right, we know that reading fosters empathy. But slow reading especially fosters empathy because we are connecting more deeply to the words on the page. We are jumping into the shoes of another character. We are paying attention to the nudges that we are getting in the book because we are open to receiving them in that slower memory, in that slower space. Now, third, slow reading can boost our memory. If we slow down, if we are more mindful, then we remember more. You can notice the beauty of the words. You can notice the rhythm of the plot or the rhythm of the poem of whatever you're reading. You can pick out metaphors. You can see details that you might not have seen before. You can actually pick out those lines that perhaps made you stop in your tracks. If you're not rushing, you're going to feel them and see them more. And that has an impact on our whole soul, right? That's when reading can really be that embodied experience. We are present, we are out of our swirling mind, and we are anchored in the now of a story. So, how do you do it? What are some ways that you can actually practice slow reading? Well, you have to set the stage first. Right? We are going to read slowly, mindfully, more presently. Then you have to choose a cozy reading spot that can help you disconnect from everything else. Whether that is in your home or out of your home, if you know people won't bother you, if you find a nice spot away. Maybe you light a candle, maybe you brew a cup of coffee or steep some tea. You bring out all of those beautiful sensory rituals that we have talked about on the podcast in the past. You set the scene for your body to actually slow down, right? Your mind can't slow down unless your body has slowed down. And so, one of the first ways to support slow and mindful reading is to set the reading scene. Right? You may have 10 minutes to read in your car in between school pickup, but chances are that won't be a slow, savory, lingering kind of read. So if you really want to lean into slow reading, set the stage. That means no distractions, put your phone in the other room or turn it on airplane mode or whatever we do. So you have set the scene. The next step is to really let yourself sink into the book. Now, you can do that a couple of different ways. One way that we have never talked about on the podcast before is to actually read your book aloud. We are very fast readers, or at least faster readers, when we read silently. Even the most fluent fast reader, when they are reading out loud, naturally slow their pace down. So if you want a quick tip to slow your fast reading down, simply read out loud or whisper out loud. Doing so may also help you catch those beautiful words and messages that were meant for you because you're not only slowing them down aloud, but you're literally hearing them, not just from inside your mind, but from outside of it. When you're reading aloud, or even if you are reading silently, the next call to action of slow or mindful reading is to pay attention to the lines that move you. If you are up for it, mark them in your actual book. If you own it, circle the words that jump out at you, highlight beautiful quotes, underline them, put a book dart on the page, put a sticky note or a sticky note flag And if you are inside my Get Literate community, you know that our one-word theme this month is florilegia. Isn't that a cool word? Florilegia is the collection or the curation of bouquets of words. So it's literally reading a text, picking out those sentences that move us, and writing them on a piece of paper so that when we are done with that book or that piece, we can look at those beautiful quotes we've collected, which is called a florilegium, and we can read them from top to bottom as its own sacred text to really celebrate the way the book has moved us. Finding those quotes, jotting them down, and then savoring them in that sacred way, that florilegia, it is the perfect way to slow your reading down. And then the last thing you might think about, if we are thinking in sets of 3, is to think how you can make your reading matter. So when the reading is done, whether that's the chapter, whether that's the time that you've read in a single sitting, or if it's the end of the book, take a few moments to reflect. What moved me in these pages? What's lingering in my mind on these pages? What questions do I have? What emotions are coming up? If you give yourself 5 minutes to just sit with those thoughts, chances are you'll think of things that you wouldn't have had the opportunity to before. That is what was happening with me with Mothers and Sons. I was getting so emotional and so caught up that I would literally close the book, set it on the kitchen table where I do a lot of my reading, and just sit. Like literally just sit, just breathe, and just think about what was going on in this family. Now, I didn't write it down, although I could have. I just sat with those thoughts and the questions and the things that it was bringing up in my own life. And it was because I set the book down and didn't worry about how quickly I had to get through it that I was able to think of those thoughts and then apply them to my own life, which of course is what we believe on this podcast. Read, write, feel better. So those are 3 practices that can help you slow your reading down so that you're more mindful. Number 1, set your reading scene to help your physical body slow down. Number 2, read more slowly and mindfully, perhaps reading aloud, or I should say, paying attention to the lines that move you to create a florilegium. And 3, take a bit of time after your reading to sit, reflect, and perhaps write. Now, I already mentioned that Mothers and Sons by Adam Haslett was the book that prompted this whole investigation into slow reading for me. But any book can and should be read slowly. So some books that come to mind are those really beautiful personal development, transformation collections. So a book like Heart Minded by Sarah Blondin, the most beautiful book of words and affirmations and meditations to live with an open heart. That book is gorgeous. And I tend to read and then reread and then reread again. And it's taking me quite a long time to get through it. And it's the most beautiful thing. A book like Soul Shift by Rachel Macy Stafford, a book that helps you look at your own life and asks you those questions that you can sit with when you are done with the chapter. Anything written by Beth Kempton, right? Wabi Sabi, especially her newest, Kokoro, which ends with these beautiful prompts for reflection and thinking, just begging to be read slowly. But any book, fiction, nonfiction, memoir, biography, verse, an essay collection, any book can be read slowly. The question is, do you want to? Now, before, I would have said, no, I am doing just fine with my pace and I'm taking away all the lessons I need. But even I got a lesson in how slow reading can truly make reading better and more personal and more emotional. And quite honestly, when I purposely read more slowly, right? When I am getting into what I termed restorative reading, you just feel better. You feel less anxious. You feel more grounded. You feel more connected. It's more than just reading the words on a page slowly. It's the whole experience of slowing down, right? And the effects that it has on our body, which means it's not just reading, it's healing. So that is your challenge for the week. I invite you to take just 10 minutes of reading. Your current book will do, unless you'd like to try a new book that you know you would read more slowly, and try it out. Set the scene, read with that open mind, and then think about the impact it's having on you. That is the framework for my restorative reading concept. And this slow, mindful reading is your chance to experience it in just one small block. Now, I've given you a couple of suggestions for books you might do it with. If you have your own suggestions for reading more slowly, I would love to hear them. You can put them in the comments of the show notes. You can find me on social media, and where I would especially love to hang out with you is on Substack. And if this idea of creating a florilegium and really exploring that one word florilegia theme interests you, you can find all of the information about that beautiful word at getliterate.substack.com. That's wrong, actually. It's alitlife.substack.com, and the community is called Get Literate. I'd love to see you there to dive into this slower, more mindful method of reading so that we can read restoratively together and feel better. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I will see you in the next episode.